Hi everyone, today we're going to be talking about how to solve the quadratic equation using the quadratic formula. But before that, we have to familiarize ourselves with the quadratic equation form. And that looks like this: ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Now, there's a few giveaways that this is a quadratic equation. First of all, you'll notice that we have a 0 on the right-hand side. That's one giveaway. The other giveaway is that you'll notice that our variable, in this case x, is raised to the second power. So when you see these two signs, it's usually the case that we're dealing with a quadratic equation. And so you'll notice that we also have the variables a, b, and c. A, b, and c represent real numbers, and specifically, a is the number in front of our variable to the second power, and b is the number in front of our variable to the first power, and c is just a number by itself. So let's look at our problem. Well, here in our problem, we have d instead of x. We just have a different variable, but that's okay. But let's try to identify our a, b, and c in the problem. Well, we know that there's really a 1, hidden 1 here in front of the d squared. So our a is just 1. Our b is just the number in front of the variable to the first power, so d to the first power, and that's positive 26. And our c is just a number by itself, and that's 43. Now, if you look at the quadratic formula on your GED formula sheet, it should say x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. We'll go step by step on how to use this formula. The first step is identifying your a, b, and c, which we have already done. In some cases, when you use the quadratic formula, you'll get two different solutions, and sometimes you'll get the same solution twice. So let's use the formula step by step. X equals, well, negative b. Well, if positive b is 26, negative of that is just changing the sign to a negative. So we have negative 26 instead of positive 26. And then we're going to add and use our square root symbol. B squared is just 26 squared minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is 43. And everything is divided by 2 times a, which is 2 times 1. I'm going to keep a note of our a, b, and c up here. And make space down here. So we have x equals negative 26 plus the square root of 26 squared is 676 minus 4 times 1 times 43 is 172 divided by 2 times 1, which is 2. And if you think back to PEMDAS, which is our order of operations, the square root falls under exponents. So we're going to do whatever's underneath the square root first. So this is negative 26 plus the square root of 676 minus 172 is 504 divided by 2. Now you can just put this into your calculator and you should get x is equal to negative 1.775, etc. Now the problem wants us to round to the nearest hundredths. So we're going to look at our hundredths place and look to our right door neighbor. And because it's 5 and higher, we're going to round up and we're going to get negative 1.78. So that is one of our answers. Now, for the other solution, you're going to do the exact same thing, except instead of a plus here, you're going to have a minus. And if you put that into the calculator, you should get x equals negative 24.224, etc. We're going to look at our hundredths place and then look to our right door neighbor. Because it's 4 and lower, we're going to keep it, not round up, keep our 2. So we will have negative 24.22 as our other solution. Here's another problem. Again, let's think back to our quadratic equation form, which is ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Well, in our problem here, we have a 0 on the right-hand side, and we have our variable, which is u raised to the second power. So let's identify our a, b, and c. Well, a is just a number in front of our variable to the second power. Well, there's really a 1 here, so our a is 1. B is just a number in front of our variable to the first power. And because we have a minus 30 here, our b is negative 30. And c is just a number by itself. It's just 11. Now that we have our a, b, and c, let's use our quadratic formula. X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Because our b is negative 30, negative b would have the opposite sign and be positive 30 in our formula instead. And then we're going to add the square root of b squared, so that's negative 30, everything squared, minus 4 times our a, which is 1, times our c, which is 11, and all of that is divided by 2 times a, which is 1. Okay? Simplifying, we have 30 plus the square root of 900 minus 44 over 2. And that gives us 30 plus the square root of 856 divided by 2. And if you put that into the calculator, you should get 29.628. Again, they want us to round to the nearest hundredths. So we're going to look at our hundredths place, look to our right door neighbor. Because it's a 5 or higher, we're going to round that 2 up to a 3. So we have 29.63 as one of our solutions. And for the other solution, everywhere you see a plus here, you're going to put a minus here. And if you put that into the calculator, you should get 0.371. Again, we're going to look to our hundreds place, look to our right door neighbor. Because it's 4 or lower, we're going to keep our 7. So 0.37 is our other solution. Here's another problem. Again, think back to our quadratic equation form. Ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Well, in our problem here, we have a negative 45 instead of a 0. Is there something that I can do to make it a 0 on this side? I sure can. I can add 45 on both sides. So I can change my equation to t squared plus 26t plus 45 equals 0. Now I can use my quadratic equation formula because it fits my quadratic equation form. Let's identify our a, b, and c. Well, a is just 1. There's really a hidden 1 in front of my t squared here. My b is 26, and my c is 45. Now I can start to use a quadratic formula. X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Because my b is positive 26, negative b is going to have the opposite sign and use negative 26 plus the square root of 26 squared minus 4 times my a, which is 1, times my c, which is 45. Okay? And that's everything over 2 times a, and my a is 1. Simplifying under the square root, I get negative 26 plus the square root of 676 minus 4 times 1 times 45 is 180. And that's everything over 2 times 1, which is 2. Okay, continuing to simplify underneath the square root, I get negative 26 plus the square root 496 over 2. And if you put that into a calculator, you should get negative 1.864. Because we want to round to the nearest hundredths, we're going to look at our hundredths place, look to our right door neighbor. Because it's 4 and lower, we keep our 6. So negative 1.86 is one of our solutions. And for the other solution, every time where you see a plus, you're going to replace it with the subtraction symbol. And if you put that into the calculator, you should get negative 24.135. Again, we want to look to our hundredths place and look to our right door neighbor. Because it's 5 and 5 or higher, we're going to round our 3 into a 4. We're going to round up. So our other solution is negative 24.14.